to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Katie, you want to do roll call for us, please?
Sure. Take everything. Okay.
Cameras are running. Thank you.
So, Rockwell.
Yes.
Caudell.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
McWhirter.
Here.
Nevers. Knuckles. Pearson.
Here.
Pullen. Richmond. Schultz.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Todd. And Ack.
Yes. Okay, we actually have some additional minutes that are not on the agenda. I had some executive session minutes that Mr. Bothwell had asked if we had presented them at the last meeting, so I did give them to Brenda to place on this agenda, but it's not on there, so we're going to add March 18th executive session minutes.
It's on there.
It is on there.
It is on there.
You have a new agenda. I have an old one, so I'll tear my new one off. Okay, all right. March 18th executive session minutes. We'll do those quickly and
I move they be approved.
okay. Motion from Mr. Bothwell to approve the March 18th executive session. Do we have a second?
Second time.
Okay, I have a second from Mr. Pearson. For the sake of time, we'll do all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I will abstain since I was not here, so.
Okay. Okay, so Katie, Dana, and Jim are going to sustain. Okay, are we ready? Move on? Okay, so we've got the next in order should be the May 6th minutes. Tabled this the last time, even though they were presented to the commission, so I hope everyone's had an opportunity to do those.
I'll ask a question. I read through these minutes, okay? And I would be making some changes, how some things are worded. But I don't want to get overly picky, make it more of an issue.
We've had quite the discussions in the past about how the minutes should be prepared. I don't know that we've drawn any conclusions.
Well, I know people have different, I guess I'll say, levels of accomplishment with the English language, how we put it together too. So I don't want to get too much into that, I guess. But just here's an example. 523, terms of probation. It says, due to time constraints, President Atkins would like to discuss Director Malot's terms of probation. But there's nothing about any discussion there. So I don't think that word's what you did. Just that doesn't make sense the way it's worded to me. But the bottom line is that's just an example. There are other things throughout here, but I don't want to get too involved with that tedious piece of review if this body's okay with that, I guess.
Okay, Katie, help us. Do you guys review the actual YouTube video of the meeting to form these minutes?
So normally Grace does.
Okay.
She'll have her phone set up with her head types away and then rises it down. That makes sense.
Yeah, you want to condense it. It's not a transcript. It's not a transcript. It's a reflection of just, a synopsis of what happened. Okay, and I agree with that. But when I read that sentence, to me, it doesn't make any sense because did we have a discussion or not? Due to constraints, you would have said we didn't have the discussion.
We did not have discussion.
So that's what I would say, I think, but it doesn't say that. You know what I'm saying? So
It needs the word further. You want to discuss Director Malot's terms of probation.
But that's just an example. Like I said, I don't want to make it more of an issue than it needs to be, but I know it can be difficult to make minutes the way everybody would like them.
Another thing too, if I may, she's also upfront, so she's taking phone
I
calls
understand.
and
I understand.
so things do get missed.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm making that point. I'm not saying necessarily we change it, and if we are okay with it, I'll vote yes too. But it's just, I would do it differently, I guess, is what I'm saying. But
And I guess what I would encourage, Jim, is if there's something that is not clear enough to be understood by another party who may want to reference these minutes, then we probably need to add whatever's necessary.
see, I think if you read that statement, you'd have that, somebody would have that question, what took place then? Did we have a discussion, or did we not have one? And, what was said? So it's just,
So we've talked about this
I know,
for years.
I know.
I've been here. Would it be possible for us to sit down, someone, me, be happy to do that, or someone come up with, minutes are important because they are the official document.
for the public to read.
And for the public to have. So really, probably ought to be doing, just recording what the action is, each item on the, so-and-so move, so-and-so seconded, all aye, or whatever. That's what minutes really ought to be. And then a statement at the bottom that a full transcript is available at indiana.gov, whatever our citation is, for people to be able to pull up web. They want to see the entire meeting transcript, so to speak. This is where you can go. But the minutes comes from the word minute, not just minimalized, which thankfully, I can go back to a meeting 2 years ago, March. We had minutes were 18 pages. Have a discussion. And Brenda, or whoever it is that's doing that, what she does, she thinks that that's what it is. We go in and discussion, show her how it'd be much easier for her than interpreting.
Are you proposing to develop a template
Yes.
for each action?
I'm proposing that we help whoever it is, the state, Brenda,
Okay.
that we can give them a format that would be much simpler, straight to the
Well,
point.
there is something online that you can go online and do that. It's already done.
Now, I will say, as someone, the secretary for multiple boards, and talk about minute, in this case, term promotion, this is sufficiently minute. This was on the agenda and we tabled it. Why? Because President Atkins said he wanted to discuss it further. It sounds like this is more of a syntax and understanding sentence structure issue rather than, there are places where we say too much, but I think this needs to be addressed because it was on the agenda to be addressed when we tabled it because Mr. Atkins wanted to discuss it with multiple people.
See, and I would go beyond, it's not necessarily a format issue for me, it's more of what's being stated. It's what is the product you're reading? And it's not really necessarily format. Format may be part of it, but in my mind, it's not format, it's what are you actually saying? And here's another example. This is small, but under public input, number 8. Jerry Stoltz expressed his frustrations regarding his property. Okay, what property? What's the location? Property at X address. It doesn't really tell me what property we're talking about.
Or even the town.
Yeah, so I have no clue where that is. Is that Marion or is it Paramount? But,
So you have to go back and watch the YouTube to actually figure out what property he was talking about.
And how many people are.
5.2.2, take a look at that, 5.2.2. Comprehensive plan update. Comprehensive plan was signed by the commissioners. Know that. Next step in the process is to coordinate with PSW. Requests have been sent to GIS as to what is needed in our layers on Elevate on the GIS website. Who's sitting at this table knows what GIS is?
I circled TSW. I don't know what that is.
Who else knows about TSW? We got acronyms that we're throwing out, but we don't even know what they
We
are.
don't even.
Also, I will say, they didn't sign the comprehensive plan. They signed
Right.
the paper to begin the process
The
of creating
contract for the comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan has not been
Right,
made yet. So that's just an incorrect sentence.
That is.
So that's wrong. I mean, it shouldn't
Yeah.
say that.
So let's get some,
Can we please review these minutes with Brenda and get her to redo so that it makes sense? I'd be happy to sit and do
let's
that.
do some amendments here while we're in a meeting
I
and
wouldn't mind helping.
talking about them, you think?
Want to come to?
I used to write, I was the secretary for the,
But let's let them review them and instead of us going through it piece by piece, it's just, it'd be a duplication. Let
Yeah,
them-
for the sake
let them
of
work with
time.
Brenda and do it, yeah.
It's,
just tell us. Looking at.
Well, I think you can read the whole thing and there's a lot of
I
parts
mean,
there.
there might be something
I can show
that
you
might
later.
not bother me.
I can show
know.
you later, but, and Bob, I'm sure Bob can find them, but,
I'm not gonna vote to table again in August. That's all I'm saying. We already tabled them once.
Right.
We table them again, but I'm not tabling 3 times.
I understand. Let's see what their product is when they come back and we'll see.
All right, do we have a motion to table the minutes?
For May
So
6th,
moved.
correct?
All right, we have a motion from Mr. McWhorter to table the minutes. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second from Mrs. Follen. Let's take a roll call vote.
Bothwell? Cottle?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Pearson?
No.
Cullen? Richmond?
Yes.
Schultz?
Abstain.
Stewart?
Yes.
Did it carry, Katie? Okay. All right, the next minutes, that would be the June 10th. Should be next in order, I hope. Yes.
I mean,
So we,
we said May, that was May 6th. I thought it was May. Table May 6th. That's what we're talking about now. I'm tempted to say do the same thing with June 10th.
Real quick, make sure there's no issues.
Yeah, when I read, I'll be honest, when I read through it, I didn't have the written copy, so I didn't mark those on my page like I did for the May 6th. But
If you're tabling May 6th, you might as well table June
yeah, I say table June 10th as well, same
We
reason.
have a motion to table June 10th minutes. Motion by Mr. McWhorter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Stewart. Let's do a roll call.
Bothwell?
yes.
Cottle?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Cullen? Richmond? Schultz?
No.
Stewart?
Yes.
Motion carries? All right, the last minutes on the agenda would be the June 10th executive session minutes.
I'll move to approve those.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion from Mr. McWhorter to approve the June 10th executive session minutes. And a second, Mr. Schultz. I'll slow down for you, Katie.
Can't write that fast. Okay. Bothwell?
Yes.
Cottle?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Cullen? Richmond?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Okay, all right, item 4, budget review. Mr. McWhorter was kind enough to visit with Brenda and kind of go over the budget, so I cordially asked him to kind of give us a report on what he and Brenda discussed.
Okay, and in your packet, you have some copies of pages that she penciled some numbers in and signed off on. I'll start through. If you guys want to go faster, let me know if we're going into too much detail, so I'll leave it up to you. Just as an opener, county council, when they do the budget process, they have 2 or 3 goals they have in mind as they go through each department and each line item. One is to adopt a reasonable budget for each department and account, one that minimizes the need for additional appropriation. So that's kind of one of their goals. And I think that's a good goal. As we present our budget request to them, it should be a reasonable amount. something we feel like we need, and we should minimize the need for additional appropriations. That's kind of the intent, okay? And then secondly, to provide a reasonable compensation and benefit package to our employees. So those are two of the goals we should have, I think, as this body presents its budget to the county council for consideration. Okay. Thought I'd just start through the general fund, and you can kind of refer to your pages that were in the packet that's at your table tonight, I think. And it was actually in the email that Brenda sent out earlier too, I think. First section is the personal services in the general fund, and that's where we have the salaries and the part-time. Currently, these are the positions we have on our schedule. We have a director, the executive administrative assistant, code enforcement officer, building inspector, code enforcement officer secretary, and then part-time category.
They are on that back page, right, Jim?
Although all those positions should be on that back page you received. Okay? And I've looked at the history of those positions from 2020 to 2024 in my review. So I'll just make a few notes here to you. In 2021, all the positions were given a $1,000 raise. Okay? All the positions, $1,000 raise. 2022, positions were given $2,000 raises. 2023, it was a 7% raise for all positions. With an exception in 23, the executive administrative assistant was given an additional $2,000 effective 7/3 of 23. So during that year, for some reason, I'm not sure what the rationale was, but this body approached the county council apparently for an additional $2,000 increase for that position. Okay? The code enforcement officer position was reduced $2,994, and the building inspector was increased $994. So there are some changes in 23 that happened to those positions. And in 2024, they're all given a 5% raise. So that kind of gives you the background: $1,000, $2,000, 7%, 5%. That's kind of history of the raises that were given across the board, with some exceptions that happened during the year of 23 to tweak. Okay. So I guess part of what this body would need to decide is, are we okay at the positions that are listed? Do we want any changes there? And what we've proposed in the numbers that you're looking at is a 5% increase for 2025. Okay, that's a 5% increase. The numbers you're looking at in the schedule that she has presented to you includes a 5% increase. Okay, we don't know what they're going to give. Bottom line is, we're just throwing it out there as proposal from this body, unless you have something different. And obviously, like I told Brenda when I met with her, whatever this body decides this evening, fine. I mean, if you want to do something less, something more, something different, that's for us to decide tonight as far as what's going to be proposed county council. This should be presented to the auditor's office by July 1st. That's their date they want this. So after we meet tonight, we should be able to give them what we want to present. Okay. So I guess
We need to act on it tonight.
I'd say, yeah, this body should express their thoughts tonight and decide if you want to do something different or not. Okay. Okay, those are the positions that are currently on the schedule, and that includes part-time. That part-time includes a 5% increase. Okay. And generally, the council has treated the part-time positions in similar manner as the full-time positions as far as increases. Generally done that. Doesn't have to be, but they generally have done that. Another thing we've talked about is, I guess there was a schedule or paper left at our tables tonight. One thought is, do we want to add a line under that personal services line for stipends for the commission members? That's something this body would have to decide. There's nothing included on what you've received from the office in your packets tonight, but I knew we'd want to discuss that tonight. If there's something you want to add there, we can do that. And I asked the auditor's office what other boards are getting, and the response I got is health board members are getting $100 a year for their service, $100 a year. Drainage board is getting $50 per meeting, and usually it's twice a month. So that's like $100 a month for them normally. The election board is getting $2,068 a year. I'm not sure how that's decided, how many times they meet, but they're getting that kind of pay. And then there's a sheriff merit board that gets paid $75 a meeting. That's usually once a month. So $75 a month roughly. So those are some other boards in the county. And so this group can decide if you want to present that, something to them for consideration. That's up to us to decide that.
Do all those boards have voluntary type people who aren't receiving compensation from some other source?
I don't know if all of those positions that way. I'd say most of them would be that way.
Okay.
There may be some exceptions. I know, for example, the drainage board, one of the commissioners sits on the drainage board. Whether they're paid this additional amount, I don't know that for sure, but probably, but I don't know that for a fact, so don't hold me to it.
Okay.
But that's something you could also decide too. Do you want other elected, in other words, the council representative here or the commissioner representative, do you want them to get paid the stipend as well? I don't know. That's up to this body to decide as a request as well.
That's something we want to.
On the statement of salaries and wages proposed, the rate of monthly salary does not add up. Probably pay, I'm assuming. It says rate of monthly salary.
And you know, honestly, I didn't see how Brenda calculated that. The far right-hand side is the key.
Right.
It should be that divided by 12, but I didn't do the math there to see if that adds up.
Yeah, it's not, so it just needs to be changed.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll probably have her leave that section out really, because total annual salary is the key.
Yeah, I don't know why, if you're gonna have that in there, then it just needs to be accurate.
Right. But I agree. I didn't check her math there, so that's a good point.
Which one are we talking about? This?
On this white page,
Statement of salaries and wages.
Okay.
This was just a little different rate.
If you multiply by 26, you get a number.
so it's by, she's got a per pay period is what she's got it down by.
But it's the form says monthly.
It says
but
monthly, yeah. It's
I
just,
think they're probably paid bi-weekly. So the monthly doesn't really make sense anyway because
yeah, it gets paid every 2 weeks.
you sometimes get a monthly, get paid 3 times.
Oh, that's true.
But the bottom line is the total annual salary is the key. That far right-hand column is the number that should be correct. And keep this in mind, when this is presented, we don't know for sure what the county council is going to approve. So they're gonna, when that process gets complete, the numbers that get added into the salary ordinance by the county auditor staff will be the correct number. Okay, it'll be correct. Okay. So it's not that big a deal. I mean, I want that to be right, but the right-hand column is the more pertinent number. Right.
Yeah, we just need to either you take it off or correct.
I agree. Correct. I'll have her take that off, probably is what I'll do. Okay. Just to simplify it.
I talked to my colleague down in Hamilton County, and he said that their APC and BZA does not get paid, and he did not know of anywhere in the state where that happened. So I am not for this personally. If it was an elected position, then that would be different. And I know Mr. McWhorter just said that there's a lot of boards. But I don't think that's, and I don't know, I'm just going by what my colleague in Hamilton County said. So I don't know that every county in the state is like that. He said he was not aware of anybody who pays their APC or BZA.
And I don't know the rationale of that, or if that's totally accurate. I'm not sure. I can't say yes or no to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been on the board for United Way and Crime Stoppers. We got paid. So it's kind of it's kind of the same thing.
And I think this body is probably, in that fact, maybe I was on the council when it was done. It's been brought to us before for consideration. We have not granted it. Past the county council hasn't. Doesn't mean they won't in the future. I can't speak to that. I don't know. But that's up to this body if you want to include that or not.
So it'll be up to this body whether we wanted to make a motion and take a vote on whether to propose it or not.
Well, I was going to wait until Mr. McWhorter was done with the full budget. We're going section by section, or we want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to hit personal services, then I'll go to the next section. So whatever you want to do is fine.
I have comments about it too, but I was going to just wait.
What would you prefer, do it as we go through it, or do you want to wait till the end?
I'm a collective leader, whatever you guys want to do.
Let me go through it, and then we can come back and address issues you want to address. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, so that is personnel, the salaries, and that's for the full-time and the part-time, and then anything we want to do with stipends would be involved with that. Okay? Next section of the budget is supplies. And there are only 2 line items that we actually have budget amounts in there. It's supplies and garage and motors. Looking at supplies, there were, in 2023, it shows $3,174 spent. There's actually an item in there that shouldn't have been in that area. It should have been down in garage and motors. That was like $850 roughly. So you could make that correction and changes the amount that's actually spent. I will note in supplies also, I know this is a question that was brought to my attention, so I did look at that. The office has had shirts made up, and those shirts, the cost of those was out of the supply account that's in there. In 2023, it was about $470. That was shirts related. And so far in 24, roughly $100 for that purpose. So this body, if they want to still continue that, it's been in supplies and it's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal as far as where it is. It's an okay line item. But what I've done for that supply item line, I've made the amount $2,500. And there's probably a little extra there, but I'm one of those, I like a little cushion. I don't want it to be overboard, obviously. But in my mind, if we did spend it, really the amount spent was probably more like 23. It would have been, got my notes over here separate from that, more like $2,300. So if I make it $2,500 for 25, it's probably reasonable ballpark. So I've used $2,500 for that line item. Garage and motors, that's where they pay for vehicle expenses. And the amount spent in 23 was really about $5,600 if you adjust the correct entry. So far in 24 through mid-June, it was over $3,000 spent, $3,600 I think so far.
How are our trucks doing, Katie?
So actually, we get our new building inspector, which we're gonna need the new decals, stuff like that for.
But that'll be paid in 24's budget.
Right, right.
And that's one of my points is in 25, you're gonna have newer vehicles.
Okay.
So in theory, you need less money, okay? Because less repairs, hopefully. Can you agree with that?
There's still my truck, I mean,
But a new one
something was my new
But a new one needs,
alternator.
new ones you need less than what?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You got warranties and stuff.
Mine's a Chevy, so I should be fine.
But I did leave it at 15,000. Line item I put down there, I kept it at 15,000. But
Right.
in theory, I'm going to guess you probably could reduce it some, but I left it at 15. I didn't change it. Okay? That should give you more cushion because you'll have two vehicles. The old one's gone, or will be here soon. You have a new one and one that's not too old. Yeah. So my thought is 15 is probably more than you need, but I left it that way, just for some cushion there.
Okay, Katie, on the supplies, do you guys feel like you have adequate supplies to run the office?
We should be fine. I do know, Randy, we need to get him shirts for when he's out and stuff like that, if that's something you want to check. So, just to make him identifiable when he goes out. And that I think we should. Better than paper.
And remember that the amount that's in there did include dollars for shirts.
Right.
It did have that in there already if you choose to continue that.
Discuss that for a second.
Sure.
Never in our past, until the last 3 years or so, did any of our employees have uniform, sheriff deputies, what they are anyway, never had that. And we didn't approve. That was just something that the administration just decided to. And virtually those folks who had that, inspector, enforcement officer, and they wore it to our meeting often and so on. Executive director, in my opinion, that probably was not appropriate press come to public meeting. Executive. And we've never had that for any. Not saying that it's wrong, but I think that this body needs to prove that, to say, hey, we think that's sharp, that's what. And the other concern that I have with Katie, other than in the job that you had before, notice you're not wearing your shirt you have. And Rita and Grace and Brenda, they get nothing, as far as I know. address, you guys have to find your own. Yet if you're in another job with it, get a wardrobe, so to speak. So I'm not against that being done, but I think we need to determine whether or not, is that something we want to continue? Or do we want to do what past 40 years has been?
I'm going to guess, Bob, that the reason those three have is because they're presenting themselves to the public. That would be identifying,
I don't disagree with that, with the exception of the executive director is not a field, probably should not dress in my view. I think my own personal opinion is I think it's a really good decision for enforcement officer and inspector. That's good. But I do not think that we want our executive.
And, bringing that up,
Anyway,
I was speaking with another county official, and they've strongly encouraged that when we move forward with our executive director, that we actually encourage that person to be a working director so that we can cross-train between different responsibilities, so that if we have an area that we're falling behind in, that even though that person's designated as one job, they may be able to fill in and catch us up in another job. So
they've
want to
done
put
that
that
in the
out there.
past. One of them. Even Ryan was good at that, so Larry, so Niblick, so on.
So this is
Talking about the
2020.
dress right now.
This is next year's budget, right?
Yeah, what we're going to be, I'll say adopting or agreeing to propose to the county council will be 25's budget.
Okay, so what you're proposing, Bob, may be something that we want to deal with at the beginning of next year as we move towards expenditure.
Just
Sounds like he wants to reduce the supplies line on budget. Because if we approve a budget to give to the executive director can use that for supplies. I mean, that's what a budget is, and that's what an executive director does.
And I'll make this point too, Clayton. You could say to whoever we hire as the executive director, even though the money is in the budget, $2,500, you could even tell him, hey, but we don't want it to be used for this. You can tell him that. I mean, that's up to this body to do that.
Yeah. But if we have,
We give back the extra, don't we?
yeah.
I'm just throwing it out, something you may want to think about.
Okay.
That guard.
When you're doing this, how many do they get? What?
What is the apparel they get?
What?
Shirts, like. you go
I
out.
started out with 3, and then Nicole wanted a hat, so she got a hat to wear. The more identifiable you can make yourself, the better, because we've been to court and they ask, okay, what were you wearing? We had our badge, we had our hat. The trucks, they're decked out, and I love my truck, but I look like a cop. So you're gonna know when I'm on your property, and I need that for my job.
So people know
It's a
who you
safety
are
thing
and not-
for
it's a
me,
safety-
too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the question here is, do we feel in today's society that our folks going out there need to have some identification and recognition?
And for citizens too, so that people can't just claim that they're, oh, I'm a code enforcement officer. They have a brown Suburban and drive up and then they get in someone's crawl space. No, you need to have the appropriate insignia of the office in order to do out on my
Right.
property.
Along with that, we have another issue that, and I agree, I think that 2 folks appropriate. However, another issue we have is that as we got the shirts and so on, and what you've had, Kate, jobs you needed that authority, they recognize you as something. We've had one of our officers that has been carrying a 9mm.
Can we table that in order? And the reason I say that, I got Ron for another 13 minutes. I'd like to get through this because I think his input's
This is
valuable.
another
as a
issue
commissioner.
that I think we need somewhere
Sure.
along the line.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sure.
I think we got a lot of liability what we're doing, and I'm the one that gave approval to that when I was president. Hey, that was fine for Nicole to be able to do. But considering liability that goes, something that, along with our dress and mode, do we want? our officers.
Let's talk budget.
Anyway, so those are the two supply lines. Supplies, $2,500 is on there as proposed, and garage motor at $15,000, okay? Next, we go to other services and charges. There are several line items there. First one with any amount in it is the legal services. And as I understand, we're paying our attorneys $20,000 a year, so I left that at $20,000 for that line item. Travel and conference, I've left it at $500, and we haven't spent that much. We spent $112 roughly in 2023, and so far we've only spent $22.50, 24. So $500 seems to be adequate. I didn't change it. I left it the same. It's probably enough unless the new director does something different.
Question, please, I'm sorry. The attorney, $20,000, that's what it is. If he does something extraordinary for us, some kind of, we have to go through the appeal or whatever court that he has to do that is above and beyond what regular job is with us.
I don't know what the contract says. Bob. We'd have to review that
$150 an hour.
contract.
$150 an hour. It's not happened for us at this point. Or I didn't think, I just found
Yeah,
out.
if I look at the prior history, that hasn't been happening.
Should we,
That's in the commissioner's budget.
should we do that here? Ed says it's already taken care of in commissioner's budget. If that's the case, dismiss. If not, we need to probably add something there just in case the thing, had to pay an extra.
Jim, on the conferences, we're going to expect our employees to acquire certifications. Are they paid by, do we need to add that into this budget?
As far as what it would cost to get them
Them
certified.
to go to classes or whatever?
I don't know what that would be, but you've got really two line items, and I'm not really sure why we need two, but we do have two. I left it the same. But you have travel and conference, $500, and you have tuition and registration, $1,500. So there's $2,000 total there. And I'm not sure what kind of expense you're thinking.
I don't, Katie, when you guys have gone for training, has that been paid?
So that comes out, if I remember right, that comes out of the tuition and our Columbia City class that is a Friday every month. And then there's a yoga class that we go to with everybody in our district. The travel and conference, there has been opportunities to where we take a weekend and or wherever it's at. Yeah, but we never.
Yeah,
So I have no idea what that entails.
the total spent in 2023 between the two accounts combined is about $320. Okay, $320. And then so far in 24, total spent is about just over 200. I did ask Brenda about that. She said they haven't felt like they've really had the time to take and get away and do those kind of things.
Ryan told me.
So that's kind of what the response I was given. So it looks like 2,000 total of those two has been way more than adequate, but I'm not sure what you have in mind for the future.
Well, if you have two, possibly having two new employees, that might cut into it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But we have cushion. I mean, $1,500 still has some cushion if we're used to spending $200.
That was my reaction when I put it down. I felt like that gave you quite a bit of cushion, but I don't know the extent you have in mind. I mean, I don't know that. In the past, you haven't had to worry about it. But.
Sorry, if I could, I think every class, we're signed up in their program. I think every class is like 100.
I can't answer that. I don't know. I know that there's a dues down below.
Yeah, and that's a person.
So,
I know the dues down below talk about belonging to IOAB, I guess.
IAO.
Yeah, that one. That's something separate than your classes. So.
To Randy's point, do we pay for our new executive director, whoever that might, to get certification? I think that we did that with Ryan. I think we've done it with Ryan.
It should be a
I think probably we did it
requirement.
with- If we are, that line item, I think probably going to be higher because that person's going to have to, he's going to have to each plus his time involved. But I would say we leave it at this time where it is, and after we ask for.
Think that'd be easy.
But I do think that we need to make the decision. Do we want to pay for their training?
Yes.
Yes.
And if we do, and I think that's what you were asking.
And I would say this, I'm okay at leaving it at the, $500 and $1,500, so 2,000 total in those two line items now. The understanding, we don't know for sure what it's going to take to accomplish what that training is going to be if there is training for a new director. We don't know who that person is yet, what their training has been and so forth. So that's one of those things where I made the comment earlier, you want to try to avoid additional appropriations if you can. But if that's the case, if maybe you just don't know enough to be able to avoid it yet. You just have to take care of that later. So that's one of those exceptions that's okay.
We can also move if we find we don't need the garage and motors to be fixed.
You can always transfer.
We can transfer.
You can always transfer. Okay.
Sounds good.
Telephone at $750 that pays for cell phone expenses, and that seems to be adequate to cover what's been paid. I'm not sure how many people have cell phones, but it's cell phone costs. Just the one, okay. I know it's like $59 a month. That's kind of what it is roughly, based on what I've seen.
I know it's just that one. I don't know if the hotspot on my iPad takes it.
Okay. Well, I know the money we're spending is roughly $59 a month is what, that seems to be adequate for that.
Okay.
Okay, and then there's a line item for photo, blueprinting, and legal. And I bumped that from $500 to $1,000. And that is to accommodate the required publications that we have for different things. And Brenda expressed to me in the conversation that she felt like we probably ought to maybe increase that this time because of costs we're seeing. And it depends how many have to be published, obviously. So I did bump it from 500 to 1,000. I bumped it to 1,000.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, so that's the reason for that bump there. It may be more than you need, but it's just hard to tell.
Okay.
So that's what's been proposed there. And then the next section is capital outlays. And there's one line item, it's equipment. And I left it at $2,000, which it has been, and nothing's really been spent since 2022 out of it. But what it is, it's for some of their computer replacements, I believe. And Brenda seemed to think there'd probably be one coming up to be replaced at least this coming year. But anyway, 2,000, we left at that. You may want to react to that if you have a thought or comment.
So IT actually came down and talked to us. It sounds like trying to work out a deal. I'll get rid of the computer. That may not even be from us too.
Yeah, that may come out of their IT budget line item too that they have.
Yeah, for them. And then I know we talked about in our, our permits, there's a place where people need to sign. We just need to get something that people can technologically sign. Let's just do a little for them. So I think that's about all we would really.
Do you have a problem with that 2,000? You think it's not enough? You think it's good? You think it's okay?
More.
So that's what we have in the, but one item, the next page, the other disbursements category for transfer of funds. The county council has approved this body having $50,000 in the general fund budget for the last, since at least 22, transfer out of general fund to the unsafe building fund for structure demolition and so forth. So this proposed budget for 25 would include $50,000 for that as well. Nice. I don't think she wrote that in there.
And we don't really have anything to say about that. That was decided by the council.
Well, yeah, you can, if you don't request it, they may not give it to you. So it's good to request it. If you want an amount to be transferred out of general to unsafe building for that purpose, you ought to include it. And I see that she did not write it in that second page. There's a line for 2025 requested, 50,000. That ought to be included if we're going to do that.
Now, where was postage? We're doing certified mail. Is that?
Postage, I'm guessing it's in supplies.
Okay. And we did increase that from last
It
year?
went, I put it up to $2,500. It's increased. It was $1,650 before. That's probably the biggest line item increase. As far as percentage goes.
Questions to Jim?
That's general fund, okay? Let me move on. There's one other fund. It's called the Unsafe Building Fund, fund number 1207. And there's one line item. It's other services and charges category for demolition expenses. And what I'd say to you, let's go ahead and budget the $50,000 that we're looking, if we're going to ask for $50,000 to be transferred into that fund, we'll budget the $50,000 for that purpose. Now, obviously, that fund has cash balances that are carried over from year to year based on what's unspent. And whatever was appropriated in that fund at the end of December 31st dies. So if there's extra money left in there, be carried forward into the next year. They'll have to come back and budget that as an additional appropriation later. But we don't know what that amount is. So my comment to you is you leave it at 50,000. And if they have money left over at the end of 24 that they can use in 25, they'll just have to budget it at that point.
What happened to the money that Jonesboro gave back to the?
But it should be in the unsafe building fund. Monies that, when I talked to Katie Sun about this today. We haven't got the full answers yet, but as we demolish properties, those owners, I'll say in a general sense, are responsible for paying us for that. Okay. I think sometimes you collect, sometimes you don't, kind of thing. But bottom line is that money gets put back in the unsafe building fund for use. Okay. That's where that money goes. Now, we won't get into the process yet right now about how that works, but unless we need to. But bottom line, because we're talking budget right now. But that money would be back in the unsafe building fund, and it's available to be budgeted for that purpose once it's there. Okay.
Randy, will you accept the question from the public?
I think I will when Jim's done. Are we?
So that's a run through of all the budget accounts now. So now we need to decide if you want to go back and discuss some items, if you want to make a decision on what you want to include there. Hey, it's up to you guys. I'm just throwing out what we've done, conversation, my review of it at this point. So.
Okay. Commission members, any thoughts?
I agree with Mr. Stewart regarding the stipend. I don't think we need a stipend. I don't like that we would be voting on stipend. Obviously, I don't think that's necessary. I'd like to see the unsafe building fund increased to maybe 60,000. I think it's been clear that we're making good use of it, that we can use it, that we're finding good price for the things. Our community's getting older, and we built cushion to some of these other places. We can nickel and dime or try to reduce other things, but even if it's only up to 55, I'd like to see an increasing unsafe structure fund to show that we're a serious area plan commission, that we can take care of our dilapidated buildings.
And I think the council, as I've heard conversations in council meetings, as that's been brought up as a topic, I think they've been appreciative of the work that's been done. I think at one point they didn't have any money to give you at all. You got none, basically. And obviously, in the last few years, they've been able to put some money toward it. So whether they'd want to bump it, maybe. But if you guys want to raise it, you can. I mean, that's not a.
From your experiences, Jim, what is the attitude or the action of a council if they're not happy necessarily with the number that we've got down there? They change it?
Well, I mean, there are times when somebody will present, maybe it'll be Brenda, somebody will present the budget in August. There'll be a date in August. Public hearings take place the last 2 weeks of August, roughly on a Wednesday and Thursday evening, I think. There are 4 nights, as Frank knows. So one of those nights, this body will be on the agenda to present its proposal. And you'll talk about what you want to see and defend it, and they'll yes or no it at that point.
The whole thing?
Well, and what they'll do on that initial public hearing session, they'll take everything except personnel. They'll approve, usually, there are sometimes exceptions, but normally everything outside of personnel will get passed on during that initial public hearing. Well, they'll look at it section by section.
Okay.
They'll look at it section by section, and they'll agree to put X dollars in those sections that night, most likely, usually. They'll come back and address personnel at the end of their process in October, because they don't know how much money they got available to give and those kind of things. The non-personnel items are the easy ones normally. It's kind of cut and dry. There's not as much money involved in it, and it's kind of routine. Not always, but also I'll use that term. It's usually routine. The personnel piece is the piece that gets done at the end, because then you see the mathematical equation comes out, how much you have left to put toward that. Then they'll make that decision.
If you increase, will they question that?
I think sometimes, yeah. Doesn't mean it's not appropriate, but I mean, if I'm on the council and you're asking me to increase it, 10%, 20%, why are we going to do that? Kind of thing. So,
sure.
But possibly.
I'd even be okay. I mean, with the newer vehicle, and we haven't spent a whole lot in 24, I'd even, if we aren't comfortable just increasing our total ask, taking 5,000 out of garage and motors and moving it to unsafe buildings or something. But I'd like to see the unsafe building increase. I think a 10% increase is very fair.
Can we shift this money anywhere we want to?
Right now,
I mean, as we get approved? Or is it stuck to that line?
once it's, okay, the general fund stands on its own. Unsafe building fund stands on its own.
Okay.
You can't move a budget from this fund to that fund. Now, within the general fund, you can transfer between line items. Do that. Okay, but you can't move it from general fund to unsafe building fund on your own.
And go fund to fund, you can't, but you can transfer from account to it.
And the council has to approve that too, but I mean, they normally would. If you're gonna transfer from supplies to other services and charges, it's still a county council decision. You can't do it on your own, but the council can make that transfer for you when you request it. And normally they would, as long as it's reasonable. I mean,
Other
Numbers.
discussion?
Do these numbers that we have reflect the additional appropriations that we have received here?
well, we talked, and it does not. We got an additional appropriation of $20,000 for contractual service. My understanding is we did that in the last meeting. That was a one-time thing and we got it done. I did not include something like that for 25's budget. There's no additional appropriation above our norm for that purpose.
We've got to figure out how to use that.
Yeah. Yes, as I look at our budget and then think, gosh, okay, good, it's only going up like 5-6% a year or whatever it happens to be. But then we have gone back numerous occasions, I guess, Frank, you would, and asked for additional appropriation money. And I don't think that's ever been afforded to us. We have any idea how much this past year, or prior to that, that we got above and beyond the budgets that were adopted? Additional that figure available someplace?
It could be.
I will say this.
I think that's important.
Obviously, the 2024 change, the 20,000 was just done. I mean, we see that. That was done in the last meeting. The biggest thing I saw when it came to change it was in 2023 with the personnel change. We added some money to the administrative assistant's salary and shifted from code enforcement officer to building inspector.
That would
for
be
some of
where
that.
Nicole took building inspector and I moved the code off the page enforcement down because that was
Right.
just.
So there were some changes there, but to answer your question, you could go back and research that and find it. I'm not sure that it's, here's the page and here it is. But
I don't think we've done any, Bob, because I think I would have been aware of that, surveyed in this role this particular year.
It's available, but you just have to go back and find it. Get it.
On the personnel salary thing, last year, I believe, Brian's comment was that we wanted to increase Brenda's pay by an additional $2,000 and the rationale for doing that was that it was a career increment. And I think, that was fine. Is that career increment, do we intend for that career increment shows up as part of her salary now? Does that go on every year? And if so, what is our basis for that? Does an employee that's been with us 25 years get an additional $2,000 for each year that they have, or do they get it as a one-time bonus, as a recognition? We need to determine, and it's real important, because the way things stand now, the salary that we're going to be offering new person that replaces Brenda, they're not going to have any experience, et cetera, et cetera. But if we don't address this situation, they are going to get Brenda's $2,000 per increment.
That's a good point. That's included just on the schedule right now. There's no designation that, hey, this is a one-time shot because of her. It's part of the schedule.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
So what do we do with that, guys?
Just because it's budgeted that amount, doesn't mean we have to offer that.
No, you can reduce
So
that.
that's our cap. It's like, this is what, and if, that's like we were talking about earlier, we don't know. We all kind of have an idea of when Brenda thinks she's going to retire, but we don't know. So we want to be able to spend that amount.
What I would suggest is this, it's a good point, and Bob brings a good point to the table on that one. We don't know when that's going to happen. My thought to you would be this, and obviously it takes some recollection and all those kind of things to happen, but when you hire someone to replace her and they don't have the experience that was warranted when she was given the $2,000, you make it clear as you make that hire, hey, we're going to reduce that by $2,000. It's going to be this number instead. You make it clear to the hire, and then as you get the personnel approved, through the process, you make sure that you change that.
If that's what we choose to do.
That's correct. You have the option, right? You have the option. Right now, the salary allows you, the ordinance allows you to pay up to that amount. If you choose to go less to reflect that change that was made, you can do that. Okay.
Other questions before we open this up to the public? Ron's going to get out of here.
You're okay.
I want to get your vote on this, Ron. That's why I'm trying to move through here.
I'm texting. I told him I was late.
Any other discussion, information?
Building funds.
You making a motion for that?
Move, we amend to reduce garage and motors to 10,000 and increase unsafe building to 50.
You should make it 10,000 and 55.
We're going to be talking to changing it if you think we'll be amenable to just a higher number, but in the trying to show that we are trying to be fiscally responsible, I think more of our resources go to unsafe building because inflation, our employees are being paid like 15% more than they were because of inflation, and costs have gone up by that amount to demolish, but the budget hasn't gone up, and that needs reflection.
So in the event that, what did you want to lower?
I don't lower garage and motors because we have the newer vehicle and the 23 or the 24 expenditures.
Is that an account we could transfer money into from another account if we needed to?
From general.
Within the general fund group of accounts, you can transfer money into it. Now, you probably, honestly, with the other accounts that are there, you don't have much room to transfer any money out of those other accounts. A little bit. I mean, we're talking pennies. So don't be counting, if you reduce garage and motor to 10, which is probably adequate, I'm going to agree with you. Don't count on transferring very much from any of the other accounts into that if you need to, because there's not much play in the other accounts. It's pretty small. I mean,
Based on expenditures from the year before.
Yeah, it's not very much.
But if we do need more in garage and motors, it'll be an unexpected catastrophic expense, likely, because we have newer vehicles. We're halfway through a year. We're at less than 33% of the budget of 15,000. That's the kind of expense you can have an additional appropriation for. Whereas we know that demolitions are getting more expensive. We know that our expected maintenance on our vehicles are going to be lower next year. Rather than having padding here, let's allow ourselves room for 10% increases in costs.
And Clayton, let me play the side of it a little bit. I'll play county council with you just a little bit too, okay? Okay, it makes sense to me. You need less here, but in terms of the overall operation, we're going to bump it up over here to keep the dollars in place, so to speak. I can buy that. Now that's what happens down the road. Say 5 years from now, you need to have more garage and motors. Or we got to then decrease unsafe building to accommodate that change.
I don't know.
I'm just saying I could play that card on you a little bit is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I would hope that whoever's sitting in my seat at that point will look at, there will always be an account where we can spend less.
Yeah, I'm just throwing you out. With that rationale, we could go the other way too. But.
If we do our jobs well and spend the money well, we won't have nearly as dilapidated buildings in our county 5 years from now.
How much money do we have at this point in unsafe?
I asked that question. It's like 66,000, I think.
Somewhere in there, would I love to spend it? I would.
I think I did ask the question.
I've got 2 jobs lined up, and that's pretty much it until I get somebody new in, so I can start.
I wrote that down.
56, it could be like a carryover.
Is this garage and motors, that include buying gas and service?
Yeah, it'd be anything for the vehicles.
Okay. Tires and all that.
I appreciate what.
Have to replace tires.
Right, shouldn't have to worry about that too much.
I appreciate what
Oil
Clayton
changes are
said.
expensive on new vehicles, more than the old ones because of synthetic oil.
Oh, but it's still not.
Yeah, it's still like $100.
Yeah, we're still okay, I think, if we do that. At least for now. At least for now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
there is a chart that I had a while back when we went like 7 consecutive years. That would be up to like 2,000. And we had nothing. Year after year after year, the council approved 0 for the unsafe structures. Okay. Let's talk about being hamstrung, not being able to do anything. Most recently, starting in when Larry Strange left,
21 probably.
Brenda, talked to Brenda about, let's ask for council for a $50,000 additional appropriation. Brenda was the interim director, just as she went to the council and the council gave it to her. That's the first time. Then we started to include $50,000 into our annual request. And the council, great, they've done it. And in addition to that, we've gone back with additional appropriations above and beyond other kinds of things. So I guess what I'm saying is, Frank, we really, really appreciate what you guys have done up to this point in time. I know that COVID money is over. You know, any COVID money that we've had where we could buy new vehicles, all that kind of stuff, that's what, the end of this year? It has to be spent or sent back, something like that. I don't think that it is appropriate at this point in time for us to increase what they have already been doing for unsafe structure. We've got $56,000 right now, and we get another $50,000, what we proposed here. If we need more, then we could go back and ask. I would not.
We got a motion
From
on
the
the
county's
floor.
point of
Okay,
view.
now I want to follow, I like the way the council allows the public to engage. Do they take a second before they vote? Is that
They
when?
take a second according to Robert's rules before they vote.
Talking about the county council?
I'm sorry?
You talking about the county council?
Yeah.
They have a motion, a second, and they have their discussion. And before they act, they'll ask for public input.
Okay, so we got to have a second before we entertain a lot of discussion here. We have a motion. Would you state that motion again, Mr. Solz?
I move that we move, not ask for more, we move $5,000 from Garage and Motors request to unsafe structures request, reducing Garage and Motors to 10,000, increasing unsafe structures to 55,000.
Now, if that's approved, does that mean the budget with those changes is approved, or do we need a second motion and for this, the
10%
budget?
increase.
Okay, what are we doing here?
Say, ask your question again.
Okay, he's got a motion to make some changes. So if we approve that, are we approving this budget as it stands, or just those items?
Just the amendment.
Just
the amendment. You're not even approving those items. You're just approving the amendment that this is what we should now vote on.
Okay, everybody understand that?
I'll second his motion.
All right, public comments, Mr. Duke, you got any?
It doesn't pertain to the motion that is on the floor right now.
Okay, so we,
We're not voting on the budget yet, just the amendment. When we vote on the budget.
Public comment at this point,
What that motion?
that amendment.
Yeah, what that motion-
okay.
Not on the amendment, but it relates to salary and compensation.
All right, so we have a motion from Mr. Solz for that proposed amendment. We have a second from Mr. Hicks. Roll call, please.
Public comment.
We got one on this amendment.
Okay.
Gentlemen, ladies, as Mr. Bothwell pointed out, the county really neglected taking down unsafe structures for many years. You drive around this county, you'll see them, especially if you go looking for them. There's a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them. We've done some concentration trying to take some down in the towns. Not that much throughout the county. Well, it needs a lot of attention. I'm not thinking $55,000. Thinking, what could we possibly do? Needs to be explored. We did add a code enforcement secretary. give us a little more firepower. We really get going on this. We need to spend $150,000. Maybe we need to spend some bigger numbers, get a priority. Start getting this county cleaned up. Because we want this county to grow and prosper. Doesn't look good. Property has junk sitting next to it that needs to have been torn down. It's all grown up in weeds, an old trailer on it. There's a lot of code enforcement work. I think we need to send a big message to county council. We need to make that a priority. Go after it. Yeah, I get everything you want. Too big. Too thing.
Okay.
I'm recommending.
Nancy?
Hello, Mike Lancy. And I really like what you mentioned, was 5 years down the road, have this all cleaned up. That's that, with that mindset, it's like, what's the root cause? Why, I'd love to look at the data of why did you tear it down and how did they get in that state? And then how do we prevent buildings from getting there, right? And I know of quite a few houses, but I'd like to see all the data, right? Where people die, the house is sitting there, nobody wants to deal with it, the family doesn't want to deal with it, right? It starts to go kind of dilapidated, and by the time it really needs to be torn down, now it's a tax, it's up for tax sale, and you've got this piece of junk, right? That has to be torn down. Is there a way in which we can help like individuals or something? And well, first is find out the root cause, and then brainstorm around how do we stop these buildings from becoming that. That's where effort, I think, needs to go. If we want to get to your goal, which is a very good goal, by the way, is take 5 years, look at 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
So that's where I'd like to see some effort, right? Is the why, what's the root cause, then brainstorm around how do we fix that root cause.
Well,
That's not, it doesn't really have to do.
These people move here and not move away. And I love shooting big. If we have this money in the bank, it'll be a lot easier. It'll be hard to defend 75,000 if we've spent 50,000 and we have money in the bank. Now, if we budget for 55 and we spend 80,000 this year using the money we have in the bank, I think we can go to the council with confidence, say, hey, we're spending this is good. I'm afraid of shooting the goose that lays the golden egg, as Dr. Boswell was talking about. But I agree, I'd love to ask for 75, but I guess I'm too much of a coward to do that, so I'm just doing 55 right now. And that's 10%. I mean, 10% is a start.
As I'm thinking about taking a small portion and really focusing on the why, what's the root cause? And then maybe the next year be able to say, all right, now we've defined what the root cause is, and then what are solutions to those root causes? So you need to find out why it's happening first, right? And I'm trying to make your job easier. Less buildings to build it.
I wish it was that easy. So my last 3 houses, the parents had passed away. The kids don't live here, but they're paying the taxes because they want to sell the property. And then I come in and I keep trying and trying and trying to where it gets to court, and I have to publicate it 3 times in the paper because they don't want to talk to me. They don't want it torn down. They don't want to deal with it. They just want to sell it, get their money, and be done. They don't live here. So then I tear it down, put a lien on the property, and I eventually get that money back. But again, it's sitting there until someone wants to buy it, and once they find there's a lien, that doesn't that. I'm not going to spend 100-some thousand for 5 acres and then spend another 10,000 or whatever it took to tear it down.
So is that the majority of the tear down?
That was my last 3. I've had some to where they were demo contracts. Okay, we're finally done. Let's sign a contract, and then I get paid right on the spot right after it's done. I mean, there's so many different. I had a lot more demo contracts than Nicole ever had, and have gigantic buildings on Main Street in Jonesboro. I don't have the budget to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to cost $150,000, I think, to tear down those 2.
We've got the root cause. And now it's like have a special session of the APC to brainstorm what's the solution.
He asked me as the Economic Growth Council. You need people to want to move in.
Okay, now.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we have a motion.
Thank you for-
Any other public comment? A motion on the floor. Second by Mr. Hicks.
Ready?
Roll call vote.
Boswell? Waddell?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Ware?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Cullen?
Yes.
Richmond?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
All right, so now.
I made that change.
Okay. So any additional discussion regard to the budget as a whole?
Any other line items you want to see changed or amended?
We don't need a motion to shut down this request because it's not currently on the proposal. This isn't currently on the proposal, right?
Right now, there's nothing for stipends on here at this point.
No. No.
Anyone else?
Are you looking for a motion to approve the budget?
Well, I don't know yet. Any other discussion? I think what Jim asked, is there any other amendments to the line items before we do the whole budget?
We didn't change the dollar amount.
Yeah.
What changes we made.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make those changes. But
Yeah, just an item.
What are the fees and fines, Bill?
I don't know.
Have we,
They go back to general fund, don't they, the council?
what we collect for fees, what we collect for fines? My understanding is that all, whatever that amount of money is, goes into the county general fund.
And basically, yeah, that is a correct statement, Bob. And I had some conversation with Brenda about that today too, fines and fees. But general fund is where the fines and fees would go. Now, I will say this in the conversation, and this is really a different matter. It's not budget. Okay. I guess there's been some concern, I'll say indecision when it comes to fines. There's the schedule we have that shows fines and fees been approved. We really haven't been dealing with the fines much because we really don't, I guess they haven't really decided where it should go, whether it should be in the general fund or the unsafe building fund. And my reaction to Brenda when she made that comment is that obviously this body needs to make a decision. But from my understanding, what I've heard about this in my conversation with her, what I know about the process, those fines that are charged because of people not complying with the fee structure or the permits and all those kind of things, those would go into the general fund. I don't think there's any question in my mind. I'm not sure why that's an indecision on this body's part, but she made the comment that the office has not been dealing with fines much, if at all, because of not really knowing about what our intent is for it. So this body needs to look at what we should do.
We're going to work on that.
We need to work on that.
Secondly, though, also my understanding that any fines that are collected by the court goes into the unsafe structure fund. So if it's court ordered, then it goes unstructured. Anything we collect that is not coming through the court goes into the county general fund.
That wouldn't be right.
How would that affect?
Jim knows.
Okay. So how would that affect the line item here?
Well, I'm going to say it won't affect the line item at all. Monies that are collected, whether it be from a property owner or from a court process, or the demolition of structure is going to go to the unsafe building fund. If the fine is associated with a permit process,
Yeah, goes to the court.
what I'm saying is if it's associated just through a permit process, a violation of not reporting something or whatever, that's a general fund item.
Right.
If it's something that is related to demolition, it's going to be unsafe building fund.
That goes through court.
But area
I'm saying
plan,
that goes to the unsafe
That's-
building fund.
That's what I'm saying. I agree.
That's fine.
Anything that the court collects, we go to court for demolition, and there's
Unsafe
money, et
building.
cetera. That's going to the unsafe structure.
Correct.
But any other thing that we collect in terms of a fine because fee that's violated or whatever, that goes to the general fund.
Correct. Now, there are some things we collect from a demolition that doesn't go through the court. There's something, and those could still be unsafe building structure
Okay.
things.
Okay, other discussion of any amendment to the line items? Hearing none, then we will move towards the adoption of the amended budget. We have a motion to adopt the amended budget.
So moved.
Okay, motion from Mr. Stewart. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from, let's get Jerry in there. We gotta get him on the minutes for next time. Michael, make it quick. My meeting's running over.
I won't bloviate, but my thought is in terms of the salary and the compensation aspect of your budget. I would preface it by saying, I think we all want to have competent, professional staff in the area plan office. I would ask the question, is the 5%?
5% is what we put in
Is
there.
that reasonable? Given the current economic pressures and the inflationary pressures, the inflationary numbers that I've heard bandied around, it's more than 15%, it's more 19, 20%. Has occurred over the last couple of 3 years. I would ask that question is reasonable, and I would offer this comment, maybe even Mr. Stewart or Mr. McWhorter have knowledge of this. When I worked in public accounting, it was customary for counties and locals to do comparative salary wage surveys every 3 years. Has there been one done for Grant County recently? And would that be a good data reference point to you to look to substantiating the salaries and the wages for the staff that are currently working in the office? I think it's reasonable on all employees to have a level of satisfaction in their job and to promote keeping the staff that are trained in their skills down.
Let me respond to that.
So I offer that to roll call.
Let me respond to that from this standpoint. You guys can add into it if you want. Well, but one of the state departments puts out a booklet that compares counties within sizes. Like we'll have a group of 10 counties that compare in size to Grant County. What are the salaries that are being paid for the positions in that county compared to the others in that group? And every year the county council, Justin through HR, they look at those. And in the past, this county has always been out of our group of 10, 8th through 10th. I mean, that's just money-wise, guys, that's just where you are. I mean, that's bottom line. Now, I will say this, the county council in the last 2 to 3 years, I'll say the last 2 years especially, gave a 7% increase year before, 5% this past year. They've tried to bump that up so we're better in that group than we were. And I don't know what the number is now, but I know they're looking to try to improve that. And I think they still will if the dollars allow. But you have the financial constraints of what your revenues are and where it has to be spent to make that all work mathematically in the equation. It all gets put together at the end. But they have been working toward it. They've been trying to increase it, and they have done it some. Whether they can continue to do that becomes the next question. How long can they do that and still live within the constraints of our dollars available? So I'll say that.
I did just look it up earlier in this meeting. The 12-month CPI increase was approximately 4%. So considering the raises in the past, if there hadn't been any raises at all over the past 3 or 4 years, it'd be a different discussion. But because there were the baseline increases, then the 7% and 5%. 5% we would be more or less keeping up with at least the officially tracked inflation.
And how other counties are handling it, I can't really speak to them at this point, what their raises have been, but I know ours have been, I'll say, good the last couple of years. And do I think that's reasonable at 5%? Personally, I think it is at this time. You just mentioned before, I wasn't aware what the CPI was right now, but as they review what funds they have available at the end of the budget process so they can put toward personnel, they'll consider that. I mean, they'll see what's available and how much they can deal with that. What you got to keep in mind is just because you have it now doesn't mean you're going to have it next year. And you don't want to give it all away now, and then you can't afford them next year either. So there's that line you play as you're dealing with that issue too. But the council's been fortunate the last few years to have more money available to them than they had prior. We've had some comments about didn't get money for unsafe structures and so forth. Didn't have it to give, basically. But we have been more fortunate in recent years to be able to do that. Whether that continues is the question.
Any response, Ron, you'd like to make as commissioner?
No,
Okay.
covered.
Frank, council member?
Just on them unsafe structures, we've been fortunate to have the Grant County some of that, and it's saved them a lot of money on, do more.
Big thank you to the highway department.
Highway department, you're right.
And we have been, I think, I'm not sure fully, but I understand from conversation, we have been reimbursing the highway department for at least some of their costs. That's good. We should do that.
Yeah.
And we have been doing that, I think, so.
The cost is much lower than.
That's what I was told in conversation at least, so hopefully that's happening, so.
All right, we have a motion, I believe by Mr. Stewart. We have a second by Mr. Cottle to approve the budget amended. Is that correct? Roll call vote. Oh, one more comment.
I'll make one more comment. This is based on what Mr. Duke just said too about salaries and so forth. I know there's been concern about the director's pay. And this budget is going to have a dollar figure for what that position can be paid up to. You could always go less, but up to. And there's been talk of a range at some time and so forth. And maybe this body at some point will go before the council and ask for a range instead. I don't know. But right now, this does accommodate a line item number for that. And people that come in to take that position, you got to realize in Grant County that, I mean, the pay's in that ballpark. I mean, that's what it is unless something changes. Just making that comment. Go ahead.
I would like to see the county retain professional competency.
I understand.
Good, satisfied employees in the area plan.
Roll call vote.
Bothwell,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
McWhirter,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Poland, Richmond,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
I will get the numbers to Brenda and have her redo that schedule, make sure that we leave off the incorrect line too, and get that to the auditor's office before July 1. So,
If we bought your supper, would you go to the council meeting with me?
bought my supper? How could I refuse that? Right? That's going to be sometime late August, I think. So I'm not sure the date yet, but yeah, we can work toward that.
I'll excuse you if you got to go, but I do want to add an item 5, and if we need a motion to do this, I've got some new business stuff I just want to make real quick to you guys about in regard to the comp plan steering committee and the solar ordinance amendment resolution. Just real quick, I'll make you aware of it. So do I need a motion to add new business?
Objection.
Sorry?
If there's no objection.
Any objections to a couple real quick new business things here?
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, hearing no objections, I want to make everyone aware that now maybe I need permission to do this. If I do, then we'll make a motion for that. Maybe let's just do a motion. I'm going to ask that the commission approve Dana accompanying me in the absence of our executive director as we move through the comprehensive plan. So we're able to acquire an executive director and move forward with that. Ask for a motion for that. It says, what are you doing? It feels like I'm going to fill the role through the comprehensive plan as the executive director. I would like to bring a commission member along with me, and I would ask that Dana, if she's willing, would accompany just as another set of ears as we move through this.
I guess unless the committee was voted on by this commission in the first place, seems like you can bring whoever you want, Mr. President. I guess.
Well, sometimes I question what I can do and what I can't do, so it's better to ask than be asked for forgiven.
Can I ask another question, I guess? What, the comprehensive plan, what are you looking to do at this point?
Okay, well, that's what I was going to share, but I need, before I made
Yeah, I guess
this-
the reason I ask is, if I was you, why I wouldn't be worried about getting the comprehensive plan updated or done until I get a new director in, is what I'm thinking.
Well, unfortunately, we have signed a contract with Okra, and we have a year to complete the comprehensive plan. And okay, so considering that there's no opposition to this new business, we have to formulate a steering committee, and we've had recommendations on who the contents of that steering committee would be. This is a request by the company, which is TSW, and for that acronym or whoever, that was Taylor, Siegfried, and Williams that we hired. Okay, and I've been in contact with Scott Siegfried, a co-owner, and Katie, Katie Clark will conduct the collection of information for our county in the company with Scott. So they've asked me to identify a steering committee, and Katie was going to do this, and I said, Katie, you got plenty to do. Let me see what I can do with this. So we have to find a county commissioner. I twisted Ron's arm. He didn't want to, but he did. County Council Representative Shane has agreed to do that. The Plan Commission member representatives, this is where I'm asking if this commission, if it's okay if Katie, Dana, and I represent the commission. We need a county highway department, which Dave White has agreed to do that. We need a county council, economic growth council representative, which I understand is Chuck Binkert, but I've not reached out to him yet. Not sure who our Grant County Tourism and Visitors Bureau is. There is a website. I sent an email asking for
Lytle
a
was the
response.
director. I'm not sure if he think they changed. There may be a new person that's the director of that now.
Well, there's no contact information on the website. I sent an email asking for a response. Haven't gotten one, so I'm gonna have to dig a little deeper with that one. Grant County Health Department, I guess Jeff Couch is in charge of that. I've got to reach out to him. Tara Street wouldn't do it. Greater Grant County Chamber Representative, I've been recommended, and this came from Justin and Nancy Bender, I believe, made these recommendations for reach. Kylie Jackson, Community Foundation of Grant County, Don Brown. School Board, County School District Representative. I reached out to Brett Garrett, who I believe is kind of coordinating the superintendents, and I asked him for somebody from the schools, and he's recommended Steve Bohr, who has agreed to do it. Steve is the assistant superintendent at Madison Grant. Higher education. Katie was going to see what she could come up with there. If you have any recommendations for these people, we would love to do that. They're asking somebody from in our county, obviously, Indiana Wesleyan, Ivy Tech, or Taylor. If somebody wants to make a nominee for there, that would be wonderful. I don't know who the Grant County Historic Society representative is. Grant County Purdue Extension Services, Chris Golf. I need to reach out to her. I don't know what Fusion Arts Alliance represents. Fusion Arts Alliance.
Like a big group. That's why I was curious as to why you would take that role without having, let the director do when we get him in, but maybe you have to.
Can't wait.
Okay.
I called.
That's fine.
There's a year's worth of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're 60-some thousand.
I withdraw my concern then.
Have you felt my stress a little, Jim?
Yeah, it's over. You keep it over there.
Just a little?
You just keep it over there.
Okay. Okay, so I guess that's the plan. We have, and everybody's welcome to this meeting. Tuesday, July 2nd at 10 o'clock, we're going to meet with Scott and Katie so that I can get an overview of what this process is going to be, so that I can know where we need to be going. Okay, any questions about any of that? Okay, all right, second thing. We received the proposed solar ordinance amendment resolution.
Hey, let me take a minute. Was there a motion? Do you need a motion for what you're?
I don't know. I'm asking you guys. Do I need a motion to?
I'm okay with him just doing it. He maybe just does it, right?
There was no objection. I mean, we put in the minutes, there was no objection to Dr. Dan.
Okay. Are you agreeable to help me? I'll buy your lunch too. Okay.
You can say she was appointed by
Make sure you make
the president with no objection.
Okay. All right. So, any other questions or comments about that? All right. So, we received, I can't tell you the date, I should have it written down here, but I don't. The resolution to amend the solar ordinance. And David's on vacation. There were a couple areas there that the commissioners wanted us to look at, noted in the ordinance, or in the amendment, was municipal setbacks, residential setbacks, and a lengthening of the easement for county ditches, and the consideration of a total number of acres for solar in Grant County. I would hope that we can those other amendments and those, but those were the four that were mentioned. So whenever David gets back and I have an opportunity to visit with him in regard to that resolution, we'll kind of decide where we're going to go from there. All right. We got new business. Anybody else have? Before we adjourn this meeting? Make it quick, Bob. I'm over time.
Took all, everybody's time. Something that is related to budget, et cetera. I think it was in 2016, we went through review of our fines and fees. They were ridiculously low.
We're going to work on that.
Contacted all of our adjoining counties. In fact, I was at that time so I did that. Contacted them, came to a middle of the road kind of thing, and established our new fees and fines thing that you have currently, if you would like to look it up. With the caveat that at least every 5 years and more often, we decided to wanted to, that schedule would automatically be adjusted according to the percentage increase CPI. Okay? Not been done. Has been on our to-do list, I don't know, for 3 or 4 years. And we don't have to do that. It's all been done. All we have to do is look at what the CPI was when it was adopted, see where the CPI is now. That percentage difference is how much, that's the percentage difference we increase each fee item. I mean, it's a done deal. Nobody brings that up.
We're going to get a new director to bring that up.
Well, I think we need to do that now. It's all
My plate is full.
This isn't anything about your plate being full.
Okay.
This is something that was adopted. This is something, and we ought to have a time. In fact, that's what I'd like for us to establish. It's going to be kind of hard for us at this point in time to get our public with a huge increase. I mean, it's gone from what, 2016 to 8-year kind of thing. So I think that we ought to establish here this evening, I would like, that starting January the 1st, that we will be increasing fees according to whatever the CPI is as of July the 1st.
The motion.
Can I draw up a
Do you
plan
understand what I'm saying?
for the next meeting?
Pardon?
Can I email you and let you and I talk about it for next meeting? I got an econ degree. I love all this. Let's get numbers so Randy doesn't have to worry about it. Let's vote on it in August.
Worry about it. And anyway, we can talk about it. But yes, I make that a motion that we adopt a timeline for this to be enacted. It's already been passed. It's not something that, we did.
You're saying.
Unless you want to do away with it.
Make it January 1 is what you're saying.
Make a motion.
Accountability with fees. We got to have fees.
I agree. So
You're saying January 1 of
I'm
25.
saying that whatever CPI is as of July the 1st this year, compared to what it was when we adopted, okay, that figure, the increased figure, be effective January the 1st. It gives like 6 months.
Do the research, bring it back to the commission, and we'll
Yeah.
review it and approve it at that point.
That's what I would prefer rather than voting on it tonight. I'd love to talk about it in August.
Sure.
He has a motion he wants to.
Yeah, he's had the motion. I mean, I'll vote it down tonight, but I'll support it in August. But I can be outvoted too.
I'm not going to support it. You're gonna, I mean, it's gonna happen if you're gonna do it. Why not just go make that a motion?
Yeah, we can, if that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, let's restate that motion, Bob.
I make a motion that we establish what the percentage difference is between current fee structure when it was set. The CPI was then compared to what it is now, that percentage difference be attached to our fines and
July 1st.
and that will happen as of January the 1st with notification, or the number will be established for July 1st. That'll be our new fee structure. It won't take effective January. So then we've got 6 months for the public.
Katie, you probably didn't
Understand
hear
we're gonna
this
have
on
to do
YouTube and get that, okay? All right, any questions about that motion? Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll
That
second. Sure.
comment, please.
All right, second. Motion by Mr. Bothwell, second by Mr. Schultz. Let's do a roll call vote.
Any public input?
Public input.
Not public, but can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Do we want to do that just for the fees and fines, and do we want to add in? He says we have those
That's
purposes
it,
around.
permit fees, that's what we're talking about,
Okay.
fees.
Okay.
There was public comment. There was a couple of fees that were greatly reduced with the very last draft of the solar ordinance. Fees were cut in half. I would say to for those, but they were.
That's beyond the scope of increasing by inflation, something that was passed in 2016.
Well, it's never been adopted until recently, but last draft, they. Anyway,
Who cut them in half?
commissioners.
Seems substantive to bring up under new business 40 minutes after the posted meeting end time. I hear you.
Well, I mean, you're talking fees.
Well, let me
And
ask.
that's on the fee schedule.
Let me ask this, because what Bob's motion entails is taking the fee schedule that was approved back whenever that was done, compare what the CPI was at that
Yeah.
point, now, is that fee schedule the correct schedule now, or has it been amended by what Mr. Hartman is saying?
That was my initial concern about just passing it tonight rather than looking into it and passing it in August. I agree with it in principle, but he brings up a good point with, does that include solar? Does that include amendments that have taken place since then?
Would include, I would amend my motion, would include all of the fees, all the fines that was effective as of last adoption, 2016. Anything that's been added to that, and so we may want to add that later. This is going to be a comparison, what fees and fine structure that was, did this initially. Pay that concern.
Okay. We have a motion. Second. Any other public discussion? Commission discussion.
I mean, if we really did pass it in 2016, then we're not finding ourselves anything new. That's the biggest reason why I'm not making a bigger issue about voting on it tonight. If it really was passed 2016, then we're not making any new commitments that we didn't already have.
Roll call vote. Okay,
Buffalo.
well, wait a minute, Lane.
To answer your question about if it's really plastered, there were other folks, I think anybody here, other than Jim, does.
I know we did that.
Yeah,
I can't quote it.
I'm not trying to question it.
I'm just saying, if this will relieve your mind. It
Jerry
just
might
was
have been there.
passed.
You might have been there.
Yeah, okay, Jerry, you remember. Okay.
Roll call vote. Oh.
I think it's been a long time.
Bothwell.
Yes.
Cordell.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
McWhirter.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Poland.
Yes.
Richmond.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
No.
Did we get enough? All right. Any other open discussion real quick? We got another meeting after this, folks. These people are sitting here for this next meeting. I'm feeling a little conscious of that, so I just want you to be aware of that.
Move adjournment.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn from Mr. Bothwell. We have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Schultz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming. Jim, you did a wonderful job. We've never had a budget explanation like that, and I've learned a lot, so thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Meeting's over. Our next meeting is going to be a real quick solar application meeting. You guys are welcome to stay or welcome to part. We'll feel no.
Sound kind of.
Okay, all right. The problem I've got is I haven't made a copy for everybody. So with that meeting being adjourned, we're going to move right into the solar meeting. That committee actually